All right, Frank, you guys 10 minutes.
Okay, this won't take long. We'll just say no. Anyhow, welcome everyone. Call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to our committee meeting. Welcome, Mr. Mayday. And I think Mr. E2 was also. So the first item that we have is a motion to approve the minutes from the prior committee meeting, I think back in November. Moved by Mr. Supervisor Geraci, seconded by Supervisor Driscoll. Any additions or corrections? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Privilege of the floor or any comments from anyone before we start?
Just a quick comment, if there's a way to condense this within about 10 minutes, I don't think you're gonna have a quorum.
Okay. Yep, I can't help that.
Go.
First item is a request for transfers of funds as attached for committee approval. Moved by Supervisor Driscoll, seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any discussion? All I can say is there's a lot of them. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. B, or number two, the request items to be discussed by the county administrator, Mr. Taflin.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2A is a journal report of transfers. I don't see there's anything in there. It is for November and December of 2023. Unless you have questions on that, I'll move forward to B. B is a request to appropriate 96,000 from general fund unappropriated surplus for our county, our contract with the SPCA of Upstate New York. I apologize, this was an oversight on our part when we did our budgeting. We neglected to add the money for the contracts for SPCA that we awarded last year. So we need to move that money from the unappropriated surplus. General fund.
Are you looking at action item?
Yes.
Moved by Supervisor Stroh, seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Discussion. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 2C is a request to appropriate 400,000 from budget code A 896, which is the vehicle reserve, to budget code with Sheriff's Law Enforcement Automotive Equipment Reserve to cover the cost of purchasing replacement vehicles. And the money is in the reserve for that.
Introduced by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Molino. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And 2D, the last one is we need to appropriate 250,000 from general fund unappropriated surplus to budget code 4390 for psychiatric equipment and criminal to cover the cost of court-ordered criminal psych exams.
Made the motion.
Moved by Supervisor Stroh. Seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Yes, question.
This, pretty much an unanticipated expense.
Correct. Unanticipated. It was a result of a court.
Okay, thank you.
But also, this restores the money that was taken out of the mental health services budget for the 2024 budget.
On your expenditures list. Is it on your expenditures list?
Yep.
That's the one.
Yep. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor of 2D?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
You're welcome. Number 3 is requests and items to be discussed by the county treasurer, Ms. Norton. Welcome.
Thank you. So, we had a lot of, cash accounts, banking accounts, Glenn National, that were very easy to transition from Mike Swan to myself with no, requirements from this committee. However, there's the one large one, the investment account, which is $15 million. That is actually, it's already been opened. It was opened in, under Mike and Rob. This is simply requesting that we maintain that account and put my name. Actually, we're not even putting names, it's the treasurer and the.
You can either go to the, to a microphone, so you can sit at the corner of the last.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Oh, okay, I need to be seen. Sorry about that. Okay. So again, this is an existing account. It's our Glens Falls National Investment Management account. It's about $15 million. It's because of the transition from Mike Swan to myself. We've actually removed names just in case we do this again. So it's going to be for the treasurer and the deputy treasurer simply to maintain this account. There's no change.
Okay. Moved by Supervisor Driscoll. By Supervisor Mayday. Get it on the floor. Any questions?
Just a quick question. Do we look at other financial institutions, competitive interest rates?
I'm actually just in the process of that. I'm trying to figure out kind of with some of the broader discussions we've been having, how much money we're making on our money. JP Morgan has just come in and talked to me and they would love, they're a much bigger institution. So the short answer is not yet, but I would like to do that. I'm trying to figure out if we can make more money on our money with other institutions.
Several of our municipalities,
Pardon me?
several of our municipalities have gone to other financial institutions with much higher interest rates.
That's interesting. The other good thing that's happening, I'll add this to my list. I'm going next Friday to the New York State Association of Counties Treasurers meeting. I will add this to the list of discussion points for them.
Any other questions or comments?
No, it's all Glens Falls National and we have one small, the question was whether or not we did anything with TD. 99% of our accounts are with Glens Falls National. We have one very small account, literally like $5,000. JP Morgan brought in like 4 people to talk to me and I appreciated it, but they're clearly looking to potentially help us. So we will be having those discussions.
On the question on 3A, authorization to the treasurer. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And 3B, the Personnel Committee did approve this request. We'd like to move it forward. Moved by Supervisor Stroud. Seconded by Supervisor Etu. Any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Anything else from the? All right, number 4. Now, I think we can combine some of these, actually.
Most of them, I believe.
I think A through F, Chairman.
A through F.
A through F. Okay, introduced by Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you.
4A through F, seconded by Supervisor Girachi.
Why not G? G and F are related. Okay, yeah. A through G?
G and H, add G and H to your,
Yeah.
F and G are.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those. Yeah.
any questions on any of these? It's basically, rolling money from one year to the next. One budget to the next. All right, yeah, I'll call the question on 4A through H. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. 4I is from the probation department. Referral from the Criminal Justice Public Safety Emergency Services Committee. Supervisor Girachi. And the first 4I is probation. Request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $171,437 to reflect the receipt of pretrial grant funding for fiscal year 23 and 24. Introduced by Supervisor Geraci. Seconded by Supervisor Straugh. Any questions on 4I? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is the Sheriff's Department. And 4J is a request to appropriate $117,032.75 from Budget Code A909, General Fund Unappropriated Surplus to Budget Code A3150-470, Sheriff's Correction Division. This is a contract to cover the cost of mandated substance abuse disorder and medication-assisted treatment services for individuals incarcerated in the Warren County Correctional Facility. Introduced by Supervisor Bruno. Seconded by Supervisor Maynard. Any discussion? Yes.
I was in the meeting as a committee member, but can you remind me why there was no budget for this, no prediction that this was going to happen? I know it's unfunded and it's mandated.
Yeah, I don't,
It was recently enacted laws that required, so, again, this was passed by the legislature and then ultimately signed really by the governor, and so these were a new law that came out,
pass the budget.
passed the budget cycle, yeah.
Any other questions? I think the state should pay for it, actually.
Absolutely.
Anyhow, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 4K. And this is a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $23,832.76 to carry over unused 2021 interoperable communication grant funding. Moved by Supervisor Geraci, seconded by Supervisor Etu. Any questions on that? I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Number 5 is referrals from the Health Services Committee, carried by Supervisor Strainer. First section is mental health, Rob York. 5A is a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $678,505 to allow for expenditure of remaining American Rescue Plan Act funding for approved behavioral health related projects. Introduced by Supervisor Driscoll. Seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any questions? I'll call the question on that. All in favor? Opposed? 5B is a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $346,119 to allow for expenditure of opioid settlement funds for the purpose of addressing the impacts of the opioid crisis in Warren County. Moved by Supervisor Bruno. Seconded by Supervisor Molino. Any questions on that? Call the question on 5B. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. 5. Next is Office for the Aging. D Park is the director. 5C is a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $41,956.43 to reflect an increase in the Hamilton County budget as a result of the addition of the services assistant position. Moved by Supervisor Bruno. Seconded by Supervisor Driscoll. Yes.
This is reimbursed by the county.
Yeah,
correct?
right. It was approved about 10 hours ago at the personnel meeting.
All right.
The Health Service Committee meeting.
Okay, on 5C, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, we have public health. Janelle Jones is the director. 5D is a request to amend the county budget in the amount of $2,000 to reflect receipt of grant funding from Glens Falls Foundation for the Community Mental Health Institute. 5E is again to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $3,000 to reflect receipt of funding from the Adirondack Health Institute and to support funding being offered to WIC families. And let's see, and 5F is a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $110,565 carryover unused funding from Health Research Incorporated for the purpose of supporting the current expenses related to the grant objectives. Okay. All three introduced by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. Any question on those, on 5D, E, or F? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chairman, can I take number 6?
Sure.
A through E were all unanimously recommended at the recent Human Services Committee meeting. A is receipt of funding award, and B, C from for Countryside Adult Home. B, C, D, and E are receipt of various funding from state agencies. So I would ask that each of those be batched together.
I'll move 6A through 6E.
Okay, introduced by Supervisor Stroud, seconded by Supervisor Geraci. Any discussion about any of those? If not, I'll call the question on 6A through E. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks.
Carried. Thank you. Number 7 is referral from the Economic Growth and Development Committee, chaired by Supervisor Utu, Planning and Community Development. And this is a request to establish, actually, it's not capital project number 11429. It's to establish, looks like, okay. Restore the 2023 program, establishing Community Development Fund, CD 79. Right. And it's in the amount of 200,000 for the purpose of providing support for emergency home repairs to seniors in Warren County. So it's not a capital project.
It's a grant.
I'll move it. Years ago, Office for the Aging had a program they called Home Handyman, who was exclusively for seniors, but this is a broad range of individuals who need that type of support in order to remain in their homes.
Introduced by Supervisor Driscoll, seconded by Supervisor Etu. Any questions about that? Hearing none. On number 7, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Number 8 is referrals from the Legislative Rules and Governmental Operations Committee, chaired by Supervisor Stroud, Board of Elections, Mr. Van Ness and Ms. McLaughlin, Commissioners. 8A is a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $23,484.56 to carry over unused absentee ballot prepaid postage grant funding from the New York State Board of Elections. And B is a request to amend the budget also for 2024 in the amount of $7,622.57 to carry over unused tier grant funding for from New York State Board of Elections. We'll do 8A and B. Yes, moved by Supervisor Merlino, seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any discussion on A8 or B? Hearing none. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see, 8C is also from the Legislative and Rules This is the county clerk, and this is a request to appropriate $16,316 from the general fund unappropriated surplus to the 1410-440 county clerk legal transcript fees in the amount of $8,158, and also to A 4010-440 health services, also legal transcript fees, $8,158. And this is to cover a portion of the county's insurance deductible in the matter of John Joseph Bergeron versus the town of Lake Luzerne. Introduced by
Oh, I was, they asked questions.
Supervisor Stroud, seconded by Supervisor Mayday. Questions? Yes.
Sorry, I meant to ask this last time and it's just a general question for me. Why would this be coming out of the general fund unappropriated surplus when it's related to these two departments? Do they just not have any funds to support this request?
Right, it's part of an insurance deductible. So I don't think they were aware of it until recently.
And that, my understanding is historically, that's how the deductible has been treated, that the
Right.
deductible is assessed against the departments, but it does come out of that particular fund.
Okay, thank you for that.
Any other discussion? I'll call the question on 8C. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
You, John. Number 9 is referrals from the Public Works Committee, chaired by Mr. Conover, and the Department of Public Works, Kevin Hajos, who's here. A is a request to amend the 2024 budget in the amount of $7,717.88 to cover the increase in operational and maintenance costs for the Warren County Industrial Park. Introduced by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Any questions about that? Call the question on 9A. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 9B, this is a request to appropriate $7,031,500 from budget code A 909, general fund unappropriated surplus to the following budget codes. $4,086,000 to A 9950-910 transfer to capital projects to be allocated to capital project number H 390 County Bridge and Culvert Project to cover anticipated costs of emergency culvert replacements due to the December 18th, 2023 storm damage. $2,945,500 to budget code A 9901. And this is also transfers, and this is for transfers, county roads, interfund transfers, and $1,597,500 to budget code D 5112. This is also for the county road, 2023 County Road 66 Country Club Road projects. The note is these requests did not go before the Public Works Committee for approval. So you move it to get it on the floor? Okay, introduced by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Mayday. Discussion.
So this was arrived at by conversation with the budget officer and Mr. Hajos.
No, I wouldn't say that.
No. Okay, then, where did this come from?
Mr. Hajos.
All right, I know there were some of the supervisors that are not on the Public Works Committee, although it didn't come through the Public Works Committee as a resolution, it did come through as a discussion. And I will preface this with Supervisor Thomas and I had a conversation last year regarding my budget and my ask for road projects as well as transfers to capital projects, which cover my local match for my federal aid projects. And our discussion led to that we would not fund it all during the budget, but I would certainly come back at the beginning of the year with Frank's blessing to ask for the money that I did not receive in my budget. With that being said, December 18th, we did have a storm event. That storm event took out 5 roads, took out 5 separate culverts, which are all under repair as we speak right now. 2 of them have already been completed, and the remainder are being worked on, and we're hoping by at least the last one, which would be Palisades Road, will be done before June 1st. These are things I can't predict. 2 of those culverts that we had that washed out, we had with DEC under a permitting process, and we were trying to hammer through the permitting process with DEC, but they were holding us up. Then we had the storm event. DEC then gave us emergency authorization to take care of those, bypassing some of their normal permitting requirements. So we were able to get in there and do this work now. It would have been nice to have some of this work done this past summer when the bridge was being worked on at exit 24, especially the ones under County Route 11. That didn't transpire because of the permitting. So right now, I handed you all a table at the start of this meeting, and I kind of can go down through the table fairly quick. The estimated expenses we have right now for the culvert work related to the storm is approximately $4.5 million or a little bit more. I had current funding in my H390 capital project, which is my bridge and culvert money. I had about $864,000 in there. We are going to take $464,000 of that and put it towards the emergency work. The remainder is for other work associated with bridge and culverts that I had coming into this year. The next line item down there is the Main Street project, which is in North Creek. That project's been sticking around for quite some time. It was part of the bond money that we got a couple years ago. That will be moving forward this year. It's actually out to bid right now, and a significant number of contractors have picked up the bid documents or plan holders. So that will be going forward as soon as we get the bids in, and I'll bring that. The estimated cost right now, give or take, is somewhere about $3.1 million. The road projects for this year, and this goes back to when I started what Frank had offered me at the end of last year regarding road projects, is the budget gave us 4 million. We needed approximately 1.38 million more. With that being said, asphalt prices have jumped from used to be $80 a ton. Now we're up to almost $110 a ton. So you'll see my 5.3, that was the budget number that we received 4 from. You'll see now it's up to 5.5. And that's based on the current prices that we have for asphalt. The bids will be out within the next week or 2. I don't know what they'll come in as. These are just estimated numbers at what the bids will come in as right now. And then the final one is the transfers to capital project. And we received 639,000 as part of the budget process, but we needed 2.2 million. That 639,000 will not cover. And that's related to our federal aid project. So it's our local match. We typically do the federal aid projects that are 80, 15, 5, and our 5% is those local match. But we have, for this year, I have for capital projects, federal aid projects, I have the Peaceful Valley Road culvert replacement. I have Corinth Road over Clinton Brook, Amsterdville Road, Hudson Street over Mill Creek, and Claw Street and Corinth Road rehabilitations. And those all vary in their amounts. Now, the conversation that I had with Supervisor Thomas the other day was, I know they were going to talk with the treasurer's office and then maybe discuss bonding, and that's, I guess, not my decision. That's definitely your decision. But the bottom line is, as I said to Frank, I don't need all the money up front, but I will need it throughout this year. So as I talked to Frank, I had told him what I had in my current resolutions. He said, yes, bring those. But then we'll try to determine what we do here at committee regarding the money and where we go with it. I'm correct, right? You did ask me to bring it.
Yeah, sure. Let's start with the 1,597,500 for the capital projects first. That was a number that I removed from his federal aid capital project budget to make the 2024 budget work. So if I could get a resolution to authorize to take that money out of the general fund unappropriated surplus, I would much appreciate it. Moved by Supervisor Etu, seconded by Supervisor Geraci. Question? Yes.
You had that 7 million up. The way that's written, we can't take 7 million out of the fund balance. Right?
Well,
I mean, we should.
we can. We can, yeah. Probably couldn't, but we can.
Won't we be getting down?
Yes. We will be far below, actually.
I just wanted to add on, it's not the 7 million that's on there. The new one sheet that I gave you, it's 6.8 million.
Right.
There's 220,000. It's $220,000.
Oh, isn't that
Yeah.
our money to take out of the fund balance?
We have about 4.67 million above what our minimum balance should be in the fund balance at this point.
But I understand what Frank did with the projects for the budget. I get that. I understand that, but when you start tapping in more of that fund balance, we're in the danger zone, I would think, but anyways, I have to leave because I have auditors auditing things, but, I'm just really concerned about taking it all out.
Okay.
Good luck.
The question before us right now is the 1,597,500 for the federal aid projects that was removed. Any questions about that particular item? If not, I'll call the question on that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, which one do you want to take on next? We have yes, ma'am. Okay, well, that was to get it on the floor to talk about it, so. I'm being told that the original motion to put the whole thing on the floor should be withdrawn, if that's agreeable with.
Yeah.
All right, let's tackle the culvert at $4,086,000 for the actually, it's $4,550,000.
No, Frank, that's the 4,000,008. What's needed correctly?
Okay, I got you.
4,086.
Let's talk about that. Is that something that we want to take out of fund balance? I don't think we should. I think I mean, you're talking about replacing culverts, and I know it's emergency repair, but it's, these culverts are going to be there for 40, 50 years. So, somebody else should help pay for it. Yes.
Well, we did, had a brief discussion on it, you and I, Secretary Taplin and maybe, Chairman. Maybe some of this comes out of the general fund, but also talk briefly about some of it being all that, taken into consideration.
I also talked with the superintendent, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have analysis coming out of all the culverts around the county.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that fairly quick. So right now we have last year, as you know, we were granted we were awarded a grant to do culvert assessment throughout the county. I'm not sorry, it's not throughout the county, in the Lake Champlain Basin. We had some extra funding that we said, why don't we just do the whole county? So the grant's going to pay for part of it, and then we had funding to pay for the rest. So currently they have inspected 992 culverts within the county. There's approximately 600 more to go. And they've inspected and evaluated of the 992 they found, they've inspected and evaluated up to 200 right now. What will come out of that study is it'll tell us what shape we are in with our culverts. And they're not just looking at, you know, a 12-inch culvert or a 8-foot culvert. They're looking at every single one of them. And it'll determine whether they're metal, plastic, concrete, whether they've deteriorated beyond repair, whether we can line them, whether we have to remove them and replace them. With that, that'll just give us kind of an estimate of what needs to be done or a number of what needs to be done with the culvert. That doesn't involve the regulating of streams by DEC and the permitting process, which will add on much more to this. A lot of the culverts that are larger size culverts that we have, DEC with their new guidelines are pushing us to bridges as opposed to culverts because they want your stream or your structure to be 1.25 times the bank full width. And the bank full width is just basically wherever their high water mark, they want you, 1.25 beyond that. So if we measure a bank at 15 to 18 feet, we're going to be over 20 feet for a bridge. So that's what's been pushing, and yet DEC has no more money for any of this. So with that being said, this $4 million is for, again, it's an estimated. We have two of the projects that are already done. That was Call Street and the Trout Lake one. We know that Trout Lake is only going to be about $50,000. We know that Call Street could be about $300,000. With that being said, as I talked to Administrator Tafflin the other day, the one on Call Street is a federally aid eligible road. So we're looking and working with DEC right now to get some, or I'm sorry, DOT, to get some emergency relief funding to cover the cost of that one. But it takes about $300,000 out of it, but that's the only federal aid eligible road that we had during all these washouts.
But
So
again,
we will be getting a report for those culvert assessments in the future and what we will be up against. But that won't be probably till June, July of this year.
just to remind the committee, the 4 million that we're talking about here is for the emergency repairs. This is the 5 roads that were damaged. 2 of them are still out right now that have to, 3 of them are out. Yeah. So this is like County Road 11 that, has to be repaired. So this is kind of a situation where DPW has to do those repairs or we'll have roads that are not complete.
County Route 11 is the main route into Bolton. And the other one that is still out is Palisades Road, which is around Brant Lake.
Yes.
We were part of the meeting, or I wasn't in person, but I was listening. To take the emergency culvert funding out of the surplus general fund balance, we would not suggest that from the treasurer's department. And that's because when we started out at 44.2, we took out an appropriation for the 2024 budget. On top of that, you've got the 5.1 million, which brings us down to about 37.2 million. And the minimum surplus balance needed, which is kind of the accepted practice around the counties, is 32.5. So that leaves us, and that 32.5 is what we want to cover approximately 2 months worth of expenses. So to take out the 4.1 million, it just gets us dangerously close and uncomfortable with regard to the surplus that's left. So the other option that was considered was potentially bonding this money. And actually, I think there were 2 things. We're to prioritize the funds to see if anything could be pushed, any of the projects in 2024, 2023, 24 could be pushed into 25. I think that was on your plate. What we looked at was potentially as a solution is rolling over our ban, and basically with what we have left on the ban, and then adding the 4.1 million to cover the culverts and bonding that. And with that, we'll get 10 to 15 years with the requirements approximately. And this is all based on just general conversations with our bond provider. And we would get that at anywhere from 3.5 to 3.75% for 10 to 15 years. We'd need to get that. I could get that a lot potentially tighter. It may be a little less. I just need more specifics, but we would not recommend, and the treasurer doesn't feel comfortable having it come out of the general fund balance.
Which you would
Gotcha.
support, as you said, including it in the ban.
Now, do you need this money in place to do the repairs?
So to talk to that a little bit, and this is gonna go back to the 1.597 that you just approved. The bottom line is a lot of those federal aid projects that we have are spread throughout the year. So although it's the local match, I don't necessarily need all the local match right now because those federal aid projects are spread throughout the year. The emergency culvert work projects, the contractors are currently working on. So that's the money that I may not need it all this month, then maybe I'll need some next month. But I think most of the work, as I said, will be done by June first, so I will definitely need it all by June first.
The 1.5 plus the
4 million.
4 million. Okay, thank you.
Well, then that gives us time to get your analysis. I'll just throw out my opinion. I think you need the 4 million for the repairs. I think you're probably gonna need another 4 or 5 million for the other culverts that are in the analysis. And I think then we should put a couple million towards equipment, buy a couple of roll-off trucks, buy some whatever other equipment you need to help with that area, and I think we should buy in the whole thing. That's just my opinion. Do whatever you want, I don't care.
I agree with you. I agree with look at the cost year to year.
Right.
It's a lot more palatable than once, and as the treasurer said.
And roll the band into it also.
Right.
And keep it around 10 million, 12, 10, 12.
So we have to make a move with the ban. We pay about 20% of it each year, and you have put some in the budget for us to pay back.
Yep.
That happens in March.
Okay.
So we would have to hopefully have this analysis sooner rather than later.
Right.
Yeah, the culvert analysis will not be that soon. I just said it wouldn't be till June or July.
Sorry, I missed that.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure you're aware, that's all.
Well, we should be able to narrow this down. I think you have enough money between what we just approved and also between your paving money to cover these expenses. And so we have another month or 2 months to figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, the paving projects themselves, as I said, they're just going out to bid in the next couple of weeks. I don't even have what the bids will be on those yet. So certainly the bids can come in lower. They also could come in higher. We just do estimates based on the best data that we have and what we've done in the past. So, but they won't be starting construction for projects until the plant's open, and that typically won't be till the beginning of May. So, we can certainly wait on those. And Main Street, as I said, is out to bid now, but that's going to be covered by the existing ban today that we have right now. So it'll be the 4 million, and then as you said, if we ask for more, because the equipment is not millions. Yeah, and I gotta tell you, I can't predict what the assessment's gonna produce, but based on our own inspections that we've done, the culverts that are in the ground, especially the corrugated metal ones, have been there 40 to 50 years. They've met their service life. So we're at a point now where they're all going to start to need to be replaced. We've done a lot of the smaller ones every time we do a road project, and we've replaced them all with plastic, but the larger ones are a completely different story.
I believe what I heard the chairman say. So between the 1.597 that we're taking from the general fund and the 4.533 that you currently have in road projects, with that combined, you should be able to carry over and cover the projects you need to cover until the new the bond comes due. So
Yeah, I can carry over the emergency order. correct.
So we decide how we're gonna
until
do.
we decide we can cover it.
My understanding, and I'll come back to you on this, but my understanding is when you go out, at least for the ban, and I'm assuming with the bond, you have to be very specific with the projects that it's going to cover. And you kind of have to keep to that.
You're not gonna be specific to it, and we haven't done that in the past before. When we did the bridge and culvert money a couple years ago, we put it into that capital project with the bond, and that was not specific to any one bridge. We just said it was for bridge projects or road projects.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
That's what I meant. When you're
call out
specific,
each
not,
road.
no, I completely agree with you. No, I'm with you. But it's like, it has to be bridge projects versus paving versus, gotcha. That's all I meant with that. Is there any,
Any other comments for?
just to be conservative, is there any chance? And I get the urgency of the emergency and that these culverts have way outlasted their useful lives. Is there anything else in here that makes sense or that could be pushed to to a subsequent year?
So most of the board knows right now, and I think even Nate got a kind of an education on it last year, but you weren't here, so I'll kind of fill you in. We can certainly push road projects, but every year I push a road project, it is an increased cost from there on out. We have been trying to stay on a kind of we do a pavement evaluation every year, and based off that pavement evaluation, we come up with a total of what we need for road projects. And Frank, and that's why Frank and I have talked about this. If I'm not doing those road projects and I'm not catching up, I'm falling behind. I don't put in projects that are just frivolous projects. I always put in projects that we need to maintain and take care of. And I'll give you an example. Deputy Treasurer Lynch asked me this year, he goes, well, Kevin, I only thought you needed 4 million for road projects. Well, that was last year. Now we have
Increased
new
costs.
asphalt prices and such. So when I came to budget this year, it was 5.3 million. And next year, I'm sure it's probably gonna be 5.8 million.
Okay,
So I can push them, and we've certainly done this in the past before, but then it puts us behind on our staying ahead of losing our roads.
ahead of losing our roads and then also incurring increased costs just due to inflation. Okay, thank you.
So does that sound like a plan? Like maybe next month we'll decide what we're gonna do, if we're gonna take it out of fund balance or we're gonna borrow money or how we're gonna approach this. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, do you want to bring something back to committee next month or maybe wait until March? I think we can certainly wait till March. If that, and I think that the benefit was maybe the band or something that maybe we have to wait till March.
I think what I can do is at least get all the information for you guys, and have it ready. As soon as I have it ready, I could share it. But I think March is when we actually have to pay down the band, so we want to have this information before then. Again, to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I hopefully get some, some detail. I mean, as far as culverts, and as far as equipment. So that,
Yeah, you know, the two biggest ones are gonna be the roll-off trucks.
and probably a tandem or two. But I think that's one way to go, anyhow.
So do you think you can estimate at least, or?
That's how we evolve. Yeah. Based on what I get from the consultant for assessment, we'll start to assess it, but I don't know that they'll have everything done before March, but we'll have a pretty good ballpark of where we're gonna.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Oh, okay, let's see. I blew this thing right up, didn't I? So do we need to do C? That's the the 2,945,5. Okay. Yeah. So this is it would be a resolution. Let's see. The purpose, it's an amendment to the 2024 budget for County Route 66 Country Club Road, and to allocate funds to cover the local match funds. This is the money that we just took out of fund balance, and it's to appropriate it to appropriate it to D 5112.8356 Not that one.
Not that, I don't need that part.
Oh, I don't need that part. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's since
It's the second, it's the next one.
it's just the 1597, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, it's to increase D 9950,910. And that's the 1,597,500
Okay.
county roads transfer capital projects. Interfund transfer. Introduced by Supervisor Geraci, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Any questions on that? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So the rest of it, we'll just let it set till at least next month, when we work in February. I think we'll have a better handle on it then.
But you need an action on 9E and 9F, correct?
Parks Rec,
Parks and Rec and up yonder.
Oh, yeah.
Parks Recreation and Railroad, E and F.
That's okay.
is, request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $4,300 to reflect receipt of funding from the Pearsall Foundation, $2,500, and Lewis Global Village Charitable Trust of $1,800 for Up Yonder Farm Environmental Education Center. And F is also a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $2,500 to reflect receipt of funding award from the town of Bolton for Up Yonder Farm Environmental Educational Center. Supervisor Geraci moves E and F, seconded by Supervisor E2. Any questions about that? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 10 is referral from the Tourism and Occupancy Tax Coordination Committee, chaired by Supervisor Merlino. And this is a request to reallocate funding from budget code A881 Reserve Occupancy Tax to budget code A6417 General Tourism Occupancy Tax Tourism Special Events for History on the Road contract in the amount of $36,400 for Rittner's Performing Arts Company. Introduced by Supervisor Merlino,
This was approved at the Tax Committee.
seconded by Supervisor Mayday. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Let's see. Number 11 is items from the personnel agenda that require Finance Committee action. And let's see, agenda items 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10D.
Number 4 has been tabled back to the committee.
Correct. 4 has been referred back to committee, and I think 11 has
And
been
11 has been referred
back to budget.
back to budget. Correct.
Okay. Yep, I was just looking. Yep, I think we can.
5 through 10.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Geraci, seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any question on items 5 through 10, the personnel agenda? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, vote. Carried. You don't have any pending items? Privilege of the floor?
Just quick procedural item, not to make this stay any longer, but we need to find a way to manage the schedule. If we know we're gonna have a 2-hour, 2.5-hour executive session. Even we don't know it's gonna be 2.5 hours, we know it's gonna be long.
Right.
You know, I suggested to the chairman maybe that we call the board for a special executive session. We have some very important information that we discussed, but we're losing members. We wanted to expand this.
Right.
This committee to 9. which expands, several of us had commitments. It's now 2:15, so we're 3 hours past. So I'm just venting, but we need to find a way. Not your sole problem or this committee, as chair of all of us together. But if we can just keep that in mind for the future and avoid what happened today.
Thank you.
Happens often.
I appreciate the comment.
One last point,
Yes.
I'm looking at, and actually, Mr. Girachi said that, I will be looking at our money, how much money we're making on our money. Because if it makes sense for us to use our own money, I think that's the way to go, but it doesn't in this case. It doesn't because A, it gets us dangerously close, to our minimum. And then also, we're making more, as far as I know, 5.1 to 6% on our money versus getting a bond for 3.5 to 3.75. But I'll continue to look at that and hopefully get those numbers even tighter for you.
No,
Motion to adjourn.
so moved. There, there.
Wow.